I never thought I'd be the kind of man who'd find himself questioning everything at 63. But here I am, sitting alone in a too-quiet living room in Springfield, Missouri, wondering how the hell I missed the signs. My name's Clay. I've been retired for 3 years now. Used to work as a regional maintenance supervisor for a logistics company. Long hours, bad coffee, and a lot of windshield time driving between warehouses. I didn't mind it, it gave me a sense of purpose. Now, I spend my mornings tinkering with a beat-up '78 Ford Bronco in the garage and afternoons with a paperback in one hand and black coffee in the other. It's not a bad life. Or, at least, I thought it wasn't. My wife, her name's Denise, and I have been married for 38 years. Met her at a friend's bonfire in Tulsa back in the early '80s. She had a Bon Jovi shirt on, a cold Dr. Pepper in her hand, and this laugh that made you want to say something funny just to hear it again. I proposed to her with a ring I bought from a pawn shop off Highway 44. She cried, said yes, and we never looked back. We built a solid life. 3 kids, now all grown and scattered, Kyle in Seattle, Emily in Boston, and Jenna in Austin. We've got 4 grandkids between them. The house we are in now, a 1-story ranch with faded blue shutters, has been ours for 20 years. It creaks when it's windy and the furnace makes a knocking sound when it kicks in, but it's home. Things shifted this past year. Denise started traveling more for work. She's in marketing for a home goods company based out of Kansas City. Used to be mostly remote, but they needed her presence for more in-person campaigns and presentations. That's what she told me, at least. I didn't question it. She's good at what she does, always has been. People trust her. Hell, I trust her, or did. She started flying out once every couple months. Then once a month. Lately, it's been almost bi-weekly. The trips were always short. 3, 4 days. She'd come back with stories about client dinners, hotel delays, cold meeting rooms, and bad coffee. It became a routine. She'd drop her suitcase by the washer, kick off her black leather flats, and go straight for a hot shower. I'd heat up leftover chili or throw a couple steaks on the grill. We'd eat late, usually with the TV humming in the background, reruns of Law and Order or whatever was trending on Hulu. But last Friday, something was different. She got back from a trip to Louisville, or at least that's where she said she went. The Uber dropped her off around 6:15 p.m. I was making chicken pot pie from scratch, crust and all, because she always said it reminded her of her mom. The kitchen smelled like thyme and roasted carrots. I had Johnny Cash playing low on the old speaker we keep by the window. She walked in wearing a beige trench coat and carrying a new olive green Samsonite spinner I hadn't seen before. Her hair was pinned up, and she looked exhausted, not just tired, but worn thin, like she'd been carrying something for miles. "Hey," I said, wiping my hands on a towel. "You early?" She gave me this faint smile and said, "Yeah, flights were smooth for once." She didn't come in for a hug. Didn't smell like her usual lavender conditioner. More like peppermint gum and hotel fabric softener. I went to grab her bag, but she pulled it closer like she wasn't ready to let go of it yet. "I made your favorite," I said, pointing toward the oven. She looked at the pot pie, then back at me. "Thanks. I'm not super hungry though." She went straight upstairs after that. I stood there in the kitchen, towel still in my hand, the sound of her suitcase wheels echoing against the hardwood. Something about the way she moved, it felt like she was a guest in her own home. Later that night, I found her sitting in the guest room, lights off, just staring out the window. She never used that room. I asked her what was wrong. She said, just needed some quiet. I didn't press. But I couldn't sleep either. The sheets felt colder than usual. And when I reached over in the middle of the night out of habit, my hand landed on empty space. That was the first time in 38 years that my wife didn't sleep next to me after coming home. And something in my gut told me that space between us was just getting started. The next morning felt like walking through a fog. The sunlight creeping through the blinds in our bedroom felt too sharp, like it didn't belong in that room anymore. Denise still hadn't come back to our bed. I got up around 6:45, same as usual, boiled water for coffee in the stainless steel kettle, and fed our old beagle, Rufus, who was already waiting by the door with that little wag of his tail. He didn't know anything had changed. I envied him for that. I stood by the kitchen sink with my coffee, black, no sugar, watching the early light spread over the backyard. The maple trees were just starting to turn bright orange, rust red. Fall always hits Missouri in a strange way, beautiful and slow, but with a bite in the air that reminds you winter's waiting around the corner. Denise came down about 20 minutes later. She had on those dark navy yoga pants she always wore on lazy Sundays, and a faded Texas Rangers hoodie. No makeup. Hair tied back messily. She looked younger, in a way. But distant. "Morning," I said, trying to sound normal. She gave a quiet hey, grabbed a banana from the counter, and poured herself some orange juice. Not a word about the night before. No apology. No explanation. She sat at the dining table but didn't touch the banana. Just peeled it halfway and stared at it. "You sleep all right?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. She shrugged. "Didn't sleep much. You know you could have come to bed." She paused for a beat too long. "I didn't want to wake you." The silence that followed made my ears ring. We'd never been this off before. Even during our worst fights, when money was tight, when Emily totaled her car in college, when I missed our anniversary because of a delayed flight, we always talked. Always found our way back. But now it felt like I was sitting across from a stranger wearing my wife's hoodie. I couldn't take it anymore. "Denise, are you okay? Like, really okay?" She looked up from the banana. Her eyes, usually warm and calm, were glassy. Guarded. "I'm just tired, Clay. Work's been draining lately." "Is it the travel? You've been gone a lot lately. Seems like it's wearing you down." Another pause. She looked out the window toward the maple tree. "Yeah. That's all." But I didn't buy it. I wanted to ask her right then. "Are you seeing someone? Are you hiding something?" But I couldn't. My throat closed up. I felt like a teenager again, standing on my front porch waiting to break up with my first girlfriend and not having the guts to say it. So instead, I let it go. I cleaned the kitchen while she sipped her juice in silence. Rufus laid by her feet, thumping his tail every few minutes, unaware he was the only normal thing in the room. She left around 10 a.m. to run errands. Said she needed to pick up something for work at Office Depot and maybe stop by Whole Foods. I watched from the window as she got into her Subaru Outback, adjusted the rearview mirror, and sat there for a full minute before finally pulling out of the driveway. As soon as she turned the corner, I grabbed her travel bag, the new green one, and brought it into the den. It still had the baggage tag from Southwest Airlines. DEN, Denver. She told me she went to Louisville. I stared at that tag for a long time. My hands started to shake. I opened the front pocket. Found a small packet of sugar-free gum, a folded receipt from some cafe called Aspen Bloom in Cherry Creek, and a travel-sized hand lotion I'd never seen before, lavender and bergamot. The zipper on the main compartment was half open. Inside, folded neatly between her sweaters, was a hotel brochure at the Golden Quail Resort, nestled in the foothills of Colorado's majestic peaks. She hadn't gone to any damn retreat in Kentucky. I stood there, staring at the brochure like it might suddenly vanish if I blinked too hard. I read the slogan again. Rediscover yourself. My chest tightened. When she got back that evening, I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I watched her from across the living room as she unpacked groceries, humming under her breath. She never hums. She bought oat milk. We don't drink oat milk. The questions kept stacking up in my brain, louder and faster. Who's in Denver? Why the lie? What does this mean? Why now? But I still said nothing. Instead, I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, feeling like the roof might collapse and I wouldn't even flinch. The fan above spun in its slow, uneven rhythm, and the shadows on the walls moved like ghosts. She slept beside me that night, finally. But it felt like we were a mile apart on that mattress. I could hear her breathing, calm and steady. Mine was anything but. And somewhere around 2:30 in the morning, while staring into the dark, I whispered to myself a sentence I never imagined would come from my mouth. I think she's cheating on me. I didn't say it loud. Didn't even say it with anger. Just truth. Cold and quiet, like the space between us. I didn't sleep more than 2 hours that night. Every time I closed my eyes, my mind replayed the words I'd whispered to myself, I think she's cheating on me. Over and over. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel like my life. And yet, it was the only thing that made sense. The next morning, the house was silent. Denise had already left for work, or at least that's what she told me. I stared at the empty space where her travel bag had been the night before, now tucked neatly back into the hall closet like it had never been opened. Like none of it ever happened. I made breakfast out of habit, scrambled eggs, toast, black coffee. I couldn't eat any of it. Just pushed the eggs around with my fork while Rufus sat under the table, his chin on my slipper, waiting for a crumb that wasn't coming. I thought about calling Emily. Our middle child, the most perceptive of the three. She always knew when something was off. Even as a kid, she'd say, "Mommy sounds mad today," or "Why do you look sad, Daddy?" She'd hear it in our tone before we even heard it ourselves. But I couldn't bring myself to call her. What would I say? "Hey, sweetie, just wondering if your mother ever mentioned a man in Denver." Instead, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year, Joe. Old friend from my warehouse days. Divorced now. His wife had left him in 2014 for some chiropractor in Plano. He'd called me back then, late at night, drunk off Jack, sobbing into the phone. I remember staying on the line for hours, just listening. Now it was my turn. "Clay," he said, voice raspy like he just woke up. "Hey," I said. "Sorry to call early. You got a minute?" He hesitated. "Yeah." "Everything okay?" "No," I said. "Not really." We met up later that day at Cooper's Diner just off I-44. I hadn't been there in years. Same cracked vinyl booths, same smell of burnt bacon grease and cheap coffee. It was comforting in a weird way. Joe looked older than I remembered. Hair fully gray now, glasses resting low on his nose, flannel shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He gave me a long look across the table as I stirred a coffee I wasn't going to drink. "Tell me what's going on," he said. I laid it out. The fake trip to Louisville. The Denver tag. The hotel brochure. The oat milk. All of it. He didn't interrupt. Just nodded slowly, tapping the edge of his mug with one calloused finger. When I finished, I exhaled hard, like I'd been holding my breath for a week. "Jesus," Joe muttered. "You really think she's stepping out?" "I don't know," I said. "But why lie about where she was?" Joe shook his head. "I've been there, man. You remember. Sandy had a whole second life going on while I thought we were fine." He leaned forward. "You want my advice?" I nodded. "Don't confront her yet. Not until you're sure. Not until you've got more than brochures and a gut feeling. Because if she's hiding something, she'll twist it. Make you think you're the one losing your mind. That hit harder than I expected. Because part of me did feel crazy. I don't want to believe it, I said. I love her, Joe. I still do. But it's like, every time I look at her lately, I see someone else. Someone I don't know. Joe looked down at his mug. Yeah. That's how it starts. I got home just after noon. The sun was high, but it didn't feel warm. I sat on the back porch with Rufus, staring out at the yellowing lawn, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. Around 3:15, my phone buzzed. A text from Denise. Working late. Might grab dinner with the team. Don't wait up. Team. She'd used that word before. Vague. Safe. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Okay. Be safe. I didn't believe a word of it. That night, the silence was unbearable. I couldn't stay in that house another minute, so I grabbed my keys and drove. No destination, just away. Ended up in the Walmart parking lot off Sunshine Street, sitting in my truck, watching people go in and out under those bright, artificial lights. A couple arguing over what size pumpkin to buy. A mom with a toddler asleep in her cart. Normal people. Living normal lives. I sat there until almost 10 p.m. When I got home, the lights were off. Denise's car wasn't in the driveway. I checked my watch. 10:14. She came in around 11:08. I was sitting on the couch, TV on mute, volume bar hovering over some rerun of NCIS. She looked surprised to see me awake. Didn't expect you to still be up, she said. Yeah, I said. Couldn't sleep. She set her purse down. Took off her heels. Wore a different outfit than the one she left in, dark jeans, burgundy blouse, gold necklace I'd never seen before. Dinner was good, she said, walking past me toward the stairs. I'm exhausted. She didn't kiss me. Didn't say good night. I sat there long after she went upstairs, staring at the faint glow of the hallway light against the living room walls, listening to her footsteps vanish into the distance. And that's when I made up my mind. I was going to find out the truth. No matter what it cost. I barely remember the next few days. Everything blurred together into a thick fog of half-slept nights, stiff coffee, and conversations that felt like they were happening underwater. Denise was there, in the house, going through the motions. She'd get up early, head out to meetings, come back late, make small talk about traffic or how bad the Wi-Fi was at the office. It was like watching someone play the role of a wife in a play I didn't audition for. But I kept my mouth shut. Every part of me wanted to scream at her, shake her, demand the truth. But Joe's words kept echoing in my head, don't confront her until you're sure. So I played along. Smiled when she talked about how cold the conference rooms were. Nodded when she said her team was pushing hard this quarter. I felt like a coward, like I was hiding in my own damn life. The weirdest thing? She acted normal. Too normal. She still kissed me on the cheek when she left. Still texted occasionally during the day, how's Rufus, or need anything from the store? But there was no depth to it. No warmth. Just surface-level habits, like someone copying a life from memory. That Friday, she left again. Another work trip. This time she claimed it was Chicago. Just 2 nights, she said, tossing jeans and sweaters into her overnight bag while I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. You'll be at the downtown office? I asked, watching her fold a pair of boots into the bag. Yeah. Staying at the Drake. You know the one near the lakefront? She didn't look at me when she said it. I nodded slowly. Sounds nice. She zipped the bag shut and turned to me with a practiced smile. I'll bring you back something. Maybe one of those popcorn tins from that place you like. I didn't answer. I just watched her walk past me with her bag trailing behind like a leash she couldn't feel anymore. When the Uber pulled away, I stood on the porch until the taillights disappeared. I could feel the October air working its way through my sweatshirt. My fingers ached from clenching my coffee mug too tight. Then I went inside, grabbed her laptop from the guest room, and opened it. I know. It's not something I'm proud of. I've never snooped in her stuff before. 38 years, and I never so much as opened her phone without asking. But this wasn't about pride. This was survival. The laptop wasn't password protected. She probably figured I'd never check. Most of the files were work-related: floor plans, emails to vendors, invoices for photo shoots. I scrolled through her browser history, hands sweating, heart pounding like I was breaking the law. That's when I saw it. A search from a week ago: a romantic cabins near Breckenridge. Followed by, a pet-friendly Airbnb's Colorado. And then, a how to tell your spouse you're leaving. My chest caved in. I sat there staring at the screen, not blinking, not breathing. The world went quiet. Rufus whined softly from the hallway, sensing something was wrong. I clicked deeper. Found a bookmarked listing: a modern A-frame cabin in the mountains, complete with a hot tub and panoramic views. Perfect for couples looking to reconnect, the description said. My stomach turned. The booking confirmation was right there in her Gmail. Check-in, last month. 2 guests. She never even told me she went to Colorado that time. Said it was a one-day seminar in St. Louis. Claimed the flight was delayed, that the hotel food sucked, that she had a headache the whole time. I closed the laptop slowly, my hands shaking. It was like holding a loaded gun. For a second, I didn't even feel sad. Just numb. Completely hollowed out. The pain came later. In waves. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, staring at the Formica surface like it was going to give me answers. I thought about every little detail: the new lotion she'd started using, the extra pair of earrings I didn't recognize, the way she laughed a little too hard when texting sometimes. It was all right there, in plain sight, and I missed it. I texted Joe around 6 p.m. You were right. She's been lying. He replied within minutes. You okay? No. Not even close. But I didn't answer. Instead, I printed out the reservation email. Folded it twice. Slid it into a plain white envelope. I wrote her name on the front in small, careful letters. When Denise got back 2 days later, I didn't say anything. I just left the envelope on her pillow. She didn't mention it that night. Didn't ask about it the next morning either. But I know she found it. Because for the first time in weeks, she didn't kiss me goodbye. She didn't even look me in the eyes. It's strange how silence can be louder than any argument. After I left that envelope on her pillow, the house took on a new kind of quiet. Not peaceful, not comfortable, more like the kind of quiet you get in a waiting room right after someone's name is called. Something's coming, and everyone knows it, but no one wants to be the first to speak. Denise didn't bring it up. Not that night, not the next morning. She moved through the house like nothing had changed, like we were still doing this routine of hers, the comings and goings, the cold distance disguised as business. But I saw it in her. She moved slower. Her voice was flatter. When she looked at me, she flinched just a little, like she was expecting something to explode. It didn't. Not yet. Saturday morning came, cold and gray. The kind of Missouri morning where the sky looks like wet cotton and the wind cuts through your flannel like a knife. I was in the garage, hands deep in the Bronco's engine, grease staining the cuffs of my sweatshirt. I wasn't working so much as avoiding. Denise came out holding a cup of coffee. She stood in the doorway for a minute before stepping into the garage. "I saw the envelope," she said, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't look up. Just nodded once. Wiped my hands on an old towel. She set the coffee down on the workbench beside me. "I don't know what to say," she said. I finally looked at her. She was in jeans and a heavy maroon sweater, hair tied back, no makeup. She looked tired. Smaller, somehow. "Try the truth," I said. She winced, like the words physically hit her. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said. "I never meant for any of this." I laughed, but it wasn't a nice sound. "You never meant to lie to me? To sneak around? To book cabins in Colorado while telling me you were in St. Louis?" I was confused. "Don't," I cut her off, sharper than I meant to. "You weren't confused when you packed your bags. You weren't confused when you booked a romantic cabin for two. You sure as hell weren't confused when you looked me in the eyes and said you loved me, knowing damn well you had someone else's hand on your back the week before." She didn't respond. Just stood there, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to keep from falling apart. I stared at her for a long moment. Part of me wanted to break down. Part of me wanted to throw a wrench across the garage. Instead, I sat on the stool next to the workbench and just said the only thing that kept ringing in my head. "Who is he?" She looked down at the concrete floor. Her boots were scuffed at the toes. She used to polish them every Sunday morning before church. "His name's Owen," she said finally. "He's from Denver. We met at a trade expo last winter. He's part of a branding firm we work with." I nodded slowly, feeling the air leave my lungs. I didn't ask what he looked like, or how old he was, or what he said to make her forget who the hell I was. "How long?" I asked. She hesitated. That was enough of an answer. 8 months, she said. But it didn't get physical until June. I barked a laugh. "Oh, well, that's good. You just emotionally cheated for 5 months before sleeping with him. That makes it better." She had the decency to look ashamed, but that didn't help. "Nothing would." "I didn't plan this," she said. "It just..." I felt invisible, Clay. "You were always so caught up in your routines, your projects, your books, your damn truck. I needed to feel seen." "You were never invisible," I said. "I've loved you every day since 1984. I built a life around you." She wiped a tear from her cheek, but I didn't move. I didn't offer comfort. "Not this time." "I don't want to lose everything," she said, stepping closer. "I still love you." "No," I said, standing. "You love what I gave you. The comfort. The house. The memories. But if you loved me, you wouldn't have done this." I walked past her, into the house. Left her standing there in the garage with the cold air curling around her. Rufus met me in the hallway, tail wagging like nothing had happened. I bent down, scratched behind his ears, whispered, "You're the only one who hasn't lied to me." That night, she slept in the guest room. I lay in bed alone, staring at the ceiling. No fan spinning this time. Just darkness. Just quiet. But my mind was screaming. And the part that scared me most? I didn't feel heartbreak anymore. I felt something darker. Something colder. I felt the beginning of a plan. Sunday passed like a shadow. The whole day had this muted weight to it, like the air itself didn't want to carry sound. Denise stayed in the guest room. I could hear her pacing sometimes, light footsteps on the hardwood, a drawer opening and closing, the occasional soft thud like she was setting something down too hard. But we didn't speak. Not once. I spent most of the day on the back porch with Rufus curled at my feet, flipping through an old Stephen King paperback I couldn't concentrate on. My eyes moved across the lines, but nothing stuck. I'd get through a page, realize I hadn't absorbed a single word, and start over. Again and again. My thoughts were tangled. Angry, yes, but also calculating. There's this moment after someone betrays you when you stop seeing them as a person and start seeing them as a threat. It's not immediate, it creeps in slow, almost quietly. But once it settles, everything changes. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was preparing. By Monday morning, I had a list. Not on paper, not yet. Just in my head. Names, tasks, questions. If Denise thought she could lie her way out of this, she was wrong. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to dig until I had every piece of this puzzle, and then I was going to make sure Owen, whoever the hell he really was, regretted ever hearing her name. I started small. After she left for work, I went into the guest room. Her phone was gone, of course, and she'd locked her laptop. But the room itself? It still told me things. On the nightstand, a half-empty bottle of melatonin. Not her usual brand, this one was some fancy-looking imported supplement with German on the label. There was also a hotel key card. No name on it, just a deep green color with gold lettering that read Vale Heights Lodge. I took a photo of it with my phone. In the drawer, I found a journal, not the handwritten kind, but one of those planners with notes and scribbles in the margins. I flipped through. Most pages were filled with meeting times, tasks, appointments, all harmless. Until I reached the second week of September. Scribbled in the corner of Wednesday's page was a single word, AO. Just the letter. Nothing more. But it was underlined twice. I stared at it until the lines blurred. Later that day, I drove into town and parked in front of the public library. It's this red brick building with a little garden out front, mostly maintained by retired volunteers. Inside, it smells like old paper and lemon cleaner, oddly comforting. I signed onto one of the public computers and searched Owen Branding Denver. Took less than 5 minutes to find him. Owen R. Fletcher. Founder and senior strategist at a boutique firm called Elevate Plus brand based in downtown Denver. Mid-40s, smug smile in his headshot, wearing a charcoal blazer and no tie. Looked like the kind of guy who drinks $9 coffee and thinks watching documentaries counts as activism. I read his bio 3 times. He specialized in building emotional connections between products and consumers. I nearly choked. Hell of a line from a man who built an emotional connection with my wife. His firm had worked with at least 2 of Denise's clients. That was the connection. That's how it started. I scrolled through their Instagram. Too many photos of Owen at retreats, workshops, panels. One in particular caught my eye, him standing in front of a rustic wood cabin with a caption, "A great minds need great spaces. Weekend strategy retreat equals total reset." Posted 5 weeks ago. I recognized the cabin. It was the same damn one from the Airbnb listing I found in her email. That night, she came home early. I was sitting in the living room with Rufus asleep next to me and the fireplace flickering low. She walked in, carrying a brown paper bag from that organic store she likes, the one that smells like patchouli and roasted nuts. She looked surprised to see me. "You home early," she said. I nodded. Took the day off from pretending. She set the bag on the counter but didn't unpack it. Just stood there, fidgeting with her car keys. "I think we should talk," she said after a moment. I didn't say anything. Just stared at her. "I know I've hurt you," she continued. "And I understand if you can't forgive me. But I want to be honest now. I want to be transparent." I tilted my head. "You want to be transparent, now?" "Yes," she said, her voice shaking. I've ended it with him. I let that sit in the air for a second. You ended it with him, I repeated. Just like that? She nodded. I told him it was a mistake. That I wanted to fix things with you. That I still love you. I stood slowly. Walked over to the counter. Picked up the paper bag and peered inside. Oat milk, lentil pasta, those weird kale chips she eats when she's stressed. Then I leaned in just enough for her to hear me clearly. I already know who he is, I said. I know where he works. I've seen his photo. I've read the cabin reviews. Her eyes widened, and her hand dropped to the counter to steady herself. I took a step back. So if you're gonna be honest, I said quietly, you better be ready for me to be honest too. And I walked out of the room, leaving her there in the kitchen, breath caught in her throat, hands trembling, while the fire cracked behind me like something about to break. I didn't sleep that night. Again. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling fan turning so slowly it might as well have been frozen. My body was still, but my mind was racing. I could hear Denise down the hall in the guest room. At one point, around 2 a.m., I thought I heard her crying, quiet, muffled, like she had her face buried in a pillow. I didn't get up. I couldn't afford sympathy anymore. By morning, something in me had settled. Not peace. Not forgiveness. Just a sense of direction. I'd spent weeks in a haze, grasping at details, pulling threads, hoping the truth wouldn't be what I already knew it was. But now, it was all out there. I knew about Owen. I knew about Denver. I knew about the lies, the weekend getaways, the looks she gave me like I was a ghost in my own home. And I wasn't going to let her or him just walk away clean. I started by emailing Elevate Plus brand directly. Not Owen, not yet. I posed as a small business owner from Tulsa looking to rebrand my kitchen design company. Told them I was interested in a one-on-one strategy session and wanted to speak to a senior partner. I figured if Owen was the attention-loving ego I thought he was, he'd jump at the opportunity. He replied 2 hours later. Clay, thanks for reaching out. Happy to chat. I've got some availability this week, we could do a virtual call to get started? I stared at that message for a long time. The irony wasn't lost on me. He had no idea he was scheduling a call with the husband of the woman he'd been sleeping with for nearly a year. But I didn't respond. Not yet. I had other things to do. Denise came home early that day. It was just after 5 p.m. The sky was already turning soft shades of pink and gray, and the porch smelled like wet leaves after the morning's drizzle. She walked in carrying a plastic grocery bag and a guilty expression. I didn't get up to greet her. Clay, she said quietly. Can we talk? I looked up from my chair. The TV was on, but muted, some cooking show where a guy was yelling about undercooked scallops. I think we've talked enough, I said, without emotion. She sat down across from me on the edge of the sofa, hands knotted in her lap. I know you hate me, she said. I don't hate you, I replied. I just don't know who you are. She flinched. Good. Maybe for once she felt what I'd been feeling. I ended it. It's done. Because you got caught, I said. That's not the same as ending it. She didn't argue. I'll do whatever it takes, she said. Therapy. Full transparency. I'll quit my job if I have to. That got my attention. You'd quit? She nodded quickly. Yes. If it means saving us. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. Tell me something, Denise. What did he promise you? What was the plan? Were you going to leave? Start fresh in the Rockies with your branding guru and a golden retriever? Her face crumpled, but I didn't feel sorry. Not anymore. There wasn't a plan, she said. I was lonely. And he paid attention to me. I shook my head, biting back a bitter laugh. I gave you 38 years of attention. I gave you everything. She didn't reply. She just sat there, quietly falling apart. I stood up and walked over to the window. Outside, Rufus was sniffing around the edge of the garden, tail wagging lazily. He was the only living thing in my life that hadn't changed. I want space, I said, turning back toward her. You'll stay at your sister's for now. But Clay. No, I interrupted. You don't get to negotiate. You made your choices. I could see her about to argue, but something in my face must have told her I wasn't bluffing. She stood, walked to the stairs, and I heard her gathering things quietly. 10 minutes later, the front door clicked shut. The silence that followed was enormous. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to relief. The next morning, I emailed Owen back. Appreciate your quick response. I'd like to meet in person, if possible. I'll be in Denver on Friday. Could we grab coffee near your office? He replied in less than 10 minutes. Absolutely. There's a great spot a block away, ground and bean. Let's do 10 a.m. I'll reserve a table. Perfect. I booked a one-way flight to Denver and rented a midsize SUV. No round trip. I wasn't planning on staying long. But I had business there. And for once, I was the one who had the upper hand. I landed in Denver just past 8 on Friday morning. The air felt different as soon as I stepped off the plane, sharper, colder. A dry chill that cut through the sleeves of my flannel even inside the terminal. I didn't bring a suitcase. Just a backpack with a few essentials, a change of clothes, a manila folder, and the weight of 38 years of betrayal burning a hole through the side pocket. The SUV I rented was a steel grey Kia Sorento. Nondescript. Comfortable. The kind of car you forget 5 minutes after seeing it. I drove down I-70 with the radio off, letting the hum of tires against asphalt keep me grounded. Denver rose ahead of me like something out of a snow globe, clean, bright, almost smug. By 9:45, I was parked on a side street in Loudoun, watching the cafe where Owen and I were supposed to meet. Ground and bean. Hip little place. Outdoor heaters, people in wool coats with laptops and chai lattes, indie music trickling out through the glass. The kind of place where people with Instagram-worthy lives sip ethically sourced espresso and talk about brand alignment. He was already inside. I recognized him instantly, same guy from the firm's website. Clean-shaven, tan coat over a black turtleneck, hair just messy enough to look curated. He sat near the window, sipping something from a white ceramic mug and scrolling through his phone. I sat in the car for another minute, steadying my breath, running over everything I planned to say. Then I grabbed the folder, zipped up my jacket, and headed in. The door jingled softly as I walked through. The smell hit me immediately, coffee, cinnamon, fresh wood polish. I could have been anywhere. But I wasn't. He looked up when I approached his table, and I watched his expression falter. Just a flicker. Like a dog recognizing a threat before its owner does. Owen? I said, voice calm. He stood automatically, confused. Yeah. Clay? I nodded. Mind if I sit? Sure, of course. He motioned to the chair across from him, still clearly unsure of what was going on. I didn't waste time. I'm not here about branding, I said, sliding the manila folder across the table toward him. He blinked, glanced down, then opened it. Inside were printouts of the Airbnb confirmation, screenshots of his firm's Instagram, photos of the same cabin from the listing, and a copy of the hotel brochure from Denise's suitcase. He didn't say anything for a long moment. The cafe noise buzzed around us, spoons clinking, milk steaming, someone laughing too loud at the bar. Then he looked up at me. You her husband? Still am, I said. For now. He closed the folder slowly, but he didn't deny anything. I could see it in his eyes, the realization that I knew more than enough. I didn't know she was still with you, he said carefully. Bullshit, I replied. You booked a 2-person cabin under her name. You thought I'd never find out. She told me. She told you a lot of things, I cut him off. She's good at that. He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. Look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. Sure you did, I said. You meant every text. Every touch. Every night you spent in that cabin. Don't stand there pretending like this was a mistake you tripped into. He was quiet again. I'm not here to threaten you, I continued. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to let you know that you didn't just sleep with some married woman. You invaded a life I built for nearly 4 decades. You looked me in the eyes through her and thought I wouldn't see you. He shifted in his seat, trying to play it cool, but I could see the cracks. His fingers tapped the side of his cup like he couldn't quite sit still. You might think you're just some guy who made a bad decision, I said, my voice low. But I've got copies of every receipt. Every date stamp. Enough to burn both your careers down if I felt like it. He straightened. Is that a threat? It's a warning, I said. Walk away. For good. Delete her number. Disappear. Because if I see one more email, one more photo, one more anything, I won't go to HR. I'll go public. Your firm, your investors, your wife, oh, you didn't think I'd find her too? His eyes darted up in panic. Yeah, I said, leaning forward. Jessica, right? Nice Facebook photos. Adorable kid. Now he was pale. You're not the only one who can do homework. We sat in silence for a long moment. He didn't touch his coffee. I didn't blink. Then I stood. I've said what I came to say. He didn't reply. Just sat there, mouth slightly open, like he was trying to catch up to the storm that had just rolled through. I walked out of that cafe without looking back. The sun had climbed higher, brighter now, casting long shadows down the sidewalk. It was still cold, but I didn't feel it anymore. I got in the car, turned the key, and for the first time in weeks, felt like I could finally breathe. I didn't know what would happen with Denise. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But Owen was gone. And the story, my story, wasn't over. But now, at least, I was the one writing it.